Here from our head of technology, Raúl Ochoa. Pronounced it right this time with a Spanish accent. And he's going to be talking about the future of location intelligence and trends that he is seeing in the market with his team. And then in the other room, we are hearing from a customer. We've got Telefonica here. Charlie Vallas from Ecuador is going to be talking about what he's doing in developing markets with mobile data. So make the decision, and I will welcome Raúl to the stage. Come on, Raúl.
Thank you, Flo. So today, well, first of all, thank you for everyone that came to do this conference and made it to the second day. So Flo already said what I am. I am Raúl Ochoa. I am the head of technology. You might be wondering what is a head of technology. So my role is kind of, for the last months, has been working on mid-term and long-term vision on technology, or everything technology at CARTO. And that means that I have to think about not only what is going on today, but what we are going for. Today, I'm going to take a lot of credit from a lot of people from the team. So I might be here, but without the team, the product and the technology engineering team, it wouldn't be possible to be here. I'm going to talk about a bit of the history, today's situation, and the future of technology at CARTO. So the first thing, as I was saying, is I take a lot of credit today for what we do. But one of the things that we decided some months ago was work on fixing the problems at the right place, so we don't take shortcuts. So if something is broken at Postgres, we don't fix it in the application. We fix it in the database. So for that, we created the core team, having this responsibility of not taking shortcuts at fixing the problems at the right place. I take a lot of credit from these people. So thank you, all of you. You are around. They are around. So if you have any question or you want to ask them anything, those are the faces. So look for them. So technology at CARTO. Today I'm going to talk about three main topics. One is big data. The other one is analysis. And the last one, which is probably the main one today, is going to be visualization. So big data for us means how we enable our customers, our clients, our partners to use and leverage the big data or the big location data streams that you have been hearing all these 2 days or 3 days if you were in the partners event. With big data, you usually have other problems, and for us, solving those problems means analysis. So I'm going to talk also about the analysis API that we are working on. How will that help you in your problems, and your business and customer problems. And the last one, with new data, new analysis, you have new ways to visualize and understand your data, so that's the visualization part. So starting with big data, this is probably like a buzzword that I don't really like much, because what is big data? Is 1 terabyte, 1 petabyte, what? I don't know. Depending on who you talk to, the number is usually way different. So I'm going to also not only talk about big data, but about your own business data. So most of the time, and don't quote me on these numbers, I'm going to make up some numbers now. Like 99% of the time, you are not into a big data problem. So most of the companies don't generate like terabytes or petabytes of data. Some companies, like banks or telecommunication companies or weather companies or Facebooks out there, they generate a lot of data every single day in the order of terabytes. A telecommunication company could generate in a country like Spain just terabytes of data in a single day. But most of the time, you are not in that situation. And if you are in that situation, the problem is not having the data, so it's more about understanding the data. I'm going to come back to this in a few slides. So even if you don't have big data, the performance of your own business data is also important. So one of the things that we have been doing is working on what we call our smart backend, which helps you to process and store and work with your own business data. During the last months, we come to this realization of, OK, data sets are becoming bigger and bigger. And I'm not talking about these previous use cases. I'm talking about 1 million points or 2 million points or 5 million points that you have to render in your maps. So we decided to work on, at the right level, work on how we can deliver the data in a faster and with less payload to the client. So the representation of the data is good enough. The insights of the visualization are good enough. But the speed and the transfer of the data is way better. So we work on this technology that we call smart backend, which basically allows you to, without lacking any dynamic component in our platform, still transfer less data, see the same visualization, but with this technology, so you don't have to worry about how do I process or pre-process my data? How do I store my data? So you put your raw data in our service, and we take care of that part. So you might be saying, well, I want to make a point here. So this is an example of the same visualization. Probably I am taking advantage here of a big screen where the resolution is not retina. It's not a retina display, but the visualization is kind of the same, I could say. And in one hand, without our technology, you will have to transfer 24 megabytes. And with our technology, you will have to transfer just 1.5 megabytes, which is something like a 6%. And this is not a made-up number. I think I did the maths here. So that's a value for your clients and for your customers, because the speed and the performance that you are delivering with this technology is way better without lacking any dynamic component that we always have in CARTO. So you might be saying, OK, but you are not talking about big data at all. So what is the point here? So talking about big data, and as I was saying, most of the time, working with terabytes of data could make sense, but others, you don't want to. You don't want to download 3 terabytes of data to process, curate, and work with it for your use case. So that's one of the things that we are working on, which is enabling location data streams, big data sets through the CARTO Data Observatory that will allow you to focus on the right problems and visualizing the right data. So for instance, we are enabling data sets like the Vodafone one that you saw in some of the other presentations, meaning that you will be able to, instead of downloading 3 terabytes of data, have a specific set of APIs and functions to access that data in a way that is easier to process and easier to understand for your use cases. Also, we will have all those data sets as vector tiles, and I'm going to go later talk about vector tiles. so you can also visualize those data sets. I didn't say it before. I'm going to say a few times today, please come to us and talk to us. If you want to implement something like the Vodafone analytics solution or something close to it, you want to work with site selection or your marketing problems, please come and talk to us because we might have something already for your use cases. So I am finishing with big data, and as I was saying, for us, working with big data means analysis. So my next point is about how we are enabling analysis in CARTO, and this is part of the historical point I was making at the beginning. So a few months, well, this almost, I could say a few years ago, because this was like almost 2 years ago now, we released Builder. And Builder has analytical capabilities built into the interface. One of the sections of analysis was analyze and predict. And these are not the typical GIS problems like how do I do a buffer, what are the closest points. It's a bit more complicated, but still, if you look at the interface, we have just a few of them. So sometimes they are not enough for your actual problems or your specific business problems. So, and we realized that that was an issue sometimes when you had to promote the product. So you usually get questions that are more complex than how do I calculate a cluster of points, or how do I detect outliers in my data, or how do I predict what is going to happen if in the next months with this data. So you have other questions that you cannot predict or analyze with those few analyses. So integrating analysis in the Builder interface is a hard task, because every single analysis has a specific feature that make the interface harder. So questions like, what will happen if this data is different? What will happen, or what will happen tomorrow with this data? It's not about these 3 or 4 analyses. There are more analyses. So sadly, 1 year ago, and thank you for the people organizing this event, because on 20 April 2017, we made this custom SQL function analysis. And this is like bad word analysis, okay? So what was this? So the research and the solutions team had these problems, or, you know, we have this partner, we have this client with this specific problem, but with the analysis that we have in the Builder interface, we cannot solve. If we could put this specific library and write this specific SQL, we could solve that problem really well for the client. So we built this solution, which was kind of a workaround, a hack, depending on who asks, is the perfect solution for your problem. And we solved like 20, this is like a number from a month ago, I guess. I don't know if we have been doing any new one. But we solve every 2 weeks, as average number, one business or client problem with this solution. So we thought, OK, if this is becoming so critical or so important, and it's helping us to understand what are the real problems and how clients and partners and solutions and research teams are fixing that, this is bringing us to what it is, our analysis API. So analysis API is not ready yet. We are working on it. But the idea or the vision here is that we will integrate with other services and functions that we already have in CARTO, we will leverage big location data streams, like the things that we have in Data Observatory, but other ones, like as my colleague in TomTom was mentioning before, like traffic, or in other cases, weather information, but without lacking any of the nice things that CARTO already has, which is access to a Postgres database, or using PostGIS for your usual geospatial problems, or using other location data services functions like routing or geocoding and things like that. But having in mind that these problems and these use cases are not usually something that you go to the builder interface. So sometimes you want to react to data changes, or you want to schedule your analysis to run every single day at a specific hour, or several times along the day. And also, which is really important, because this is probably when we built this, and I was mentioning before, it was kind of a nice approach, but it lacked a lot of functionality in the developer-friendly part. So if I ask anyone from the research or the solutions team, they are going to complain that the beginning it was not easy, it was hard to write these functions, and you could not debug them, and logs were lacking some functionality. The metrics are so-so. So in the analysis API, all those things will be solved, and some of them are already solved. So again, if you have a specific business or customer problems, please come to us and talk to us. So what is the vision here? Probably you were in Andy's presentation yesterday about CARTO frames. If not, the idea is that CARTO frames is a really powerful framework and tool to prototype and run and do some analysis. But sometimes when the data is bigger, or you want to have, as I was saying before, a schedule analysis or analysis reacting to data, at the end, CARTO frames is kind of a builder solution in that sense, that it's a place where you execute and you get the final result. But it's not something that is running constantly depending on your data or in your schedule. So that's something that the analysis API is going to fix. So you can use the analysis API as the backend or the infrastructure or the service for your applications. With the analysis API, we see two patterns. So we are going to focus on those two patterns. But if you have any other case, yes, please come to us, talk to us. So one of the use cases is kind of an interactive analysis. So it's something that runs within seconds, like let's say 10, 20, less than 30 seconds usually. We already have that. That's what analysis in Builder and the custom SQL function analysis that I was mentioning before is about. But when you have to use more than one machine, or your analysis is going to be running for minutes or several hours, it's kind of an industry standard to call it like a batch or ETL batch processing pipeline, blah, blah. So batch, as I was mentioning, will let you interact with your data, Data Observatory, location data streams, or things like routing or geocoding capabilities within CARTO, or, I mean, working with third-party libraries, or schedule your analysis based on data changes, or all that. So what is the situation with this? As I was saying, the interactive analysis, we have a solution already for that. So you have a specific use case, please come to us and talk to us. Batch, however, we are working on it. We think that like 80% or 90% of the problems we want to solve, we are aware of them, but we might be missing something. So again, if you have any suggestion, find me after this presentation and talk to me. I was saying before, with new analysis, new data, new visualization capabilities that you need to have. So now I'm going to focus on vector. What is vector? So imagine that you take a picture of a train, and it's amazing. The colors are bright and everything is perfect. But if I ask you about what is the length of the train, how many people can you fit into a wagon, information related to that train, you cannot have that from a single picture with your mobile phone. Well, probably you use TensorFlow and other stuff like that. You could, but imagine that I could have a camera that I take a picture of a train. Oh, sorry. And it can tell me, okay, it's a 50 seats wagon, and the length of the wagon is 25 meters. The height is 6 meters, and the width is like 5 meters. That's the difference between raster and vector technology. So vector embeds information for the pieces of the geometries or the objects that you are visualizing. So that's really powerful. Raster is an amazing technology for some of the use cases of visualizing data is more than perfect, but in other situations, you need to interact with vector data. So the first, or maybe the most successful one, I'm not going to say the first because probably someone will say, but this existed in the 70s or in the 60s, and they will be right. But the most successful one, consumer product using this technology was Google Maps. This is a screenshot from my Google Maps. I don't know if it was the phone or in the web, but as you might see there, it says Madison Square Garden, Sharks versus Rangers, Phoenix. I was in New York. I went to the Madison Garden, and they have been like giving me this kind of ads forever about Madison Square Garden. Or you can see there that I have stars and places that I love. So Google built this because they have to personalize your Google Maps experience. And doing that from the server at the scale of Google, it will be impossible. So they decided, OK, we move the rendering part to the client. And we can put not only that, but a lot of ads on it. So probably one of the requirements was not about a better experience, but also about putting use on apps. But this led to a situation where others decided to do this technology in the open, and this comes to Mapbox. So we are happy to be partners with Mapbox, and we are super happy to be working on vector technology and collaborating with them and taking advantage of the work that they did. I don't know the original reasons. They don't put ads on maps, so probably it's not ads, but the technology enabled them to solve really good use cases. And we think and we believe that this technology is now mature enough and super powerful for your LI applications. So that's why one of the first things that we started to do a few months ago was working on properly enabling vector tiles at CARTO engine. So we improved our APIs, but we also work on do you remember the core team? We work and support and promote the creation of ST as MVT, which is a function within PostGIS, PostgreSQL database geospatial extension to extract vector tiles directly from your database. So by installing the latest and greatest PostGIS version, you can generate vector tiles from Postgres without having to deal with external tools. So that's about fixing or solving the right problem at the right place. But that was not enough. So if you remember my previous slides, one of the problems with vector is that you have to transfer a lot of data to the client if you don't take care of a specific problem. So without lacking any of the dynamic capabilities that we have, we enable this aggregation that I was mentioning before. So why is vector important? I don't want to waste too much time because Flo is already telling me, please speed up. So the most important one is user experience. And I don't want to get too much into the details. Speed is important. You probably attended Mamata's presentation. The cartography part is super critical, and with vector is super nice. Animations, but not animations like I just fade the color of a geometry, but something like torque. I don't want to get into too many details. What I'm going to do is show you some videos that reflects all these important things. So this is thematic maps. As you thumb, you see that the styling changes and reflects how critical the data is. This is interactivity, which is another thing that vector technology enables way better than raster. So you can almost instantly change the colors and things like that, or click and you get instant feedback. You can access the data. Or probably this is one of the most famous features in CARTO, which is fireworks for everyone. So you can animate points, but with vector, you could also animate polygons, which is something pretty amazing. So this is the development of the city of Denver from the late 19th century. And lines. So hurricanes. This is animation of lines, never possible before in CARTO. So rendering maps of CARTO. You might be wondering, how do I do that? Because I have lived it. We had just announced CARTO years before for raster. So you have a raster, or you are maintaining a raster application. That's your solution with CARTO. But if I want to do vector, today we are announcing CARTO VL. What is CARTO VL? So it leverages, as I was saying before, our smart backend. The styling language is data-oriented, so you don't have to write enormous amount of styling just for doing small stuff. It works on top of existing libraries. We are integrating it with Map.gl, but you could work with open layers or as a custom layer in any other geospatial library. And obviously integrates well with CARTO colors, our CARTO base maps, and things like the interactivity, as I was showing before. All that supporting big data sets up to 1 million pretty safe at 60 frames per second, meaning that the experience is really, really, really good and smooth. And as a sneak peek, I'm going to go through a few examples of how simple the styling language and how powerful it is. We have 2 APIs. You probably want to talk to me or to the team later for more details, but it's close to CARTO CSS. If you know CARTO CSS, it resembles the same, but we have a JavaScript API, so you are building applications, you have that alternative. This is a basic map, but this is a complex map with polygons. We are filtering based on the number of floors. You can have functions which are really powerful, so you can normalize what you are seeing in the screen in the client, not having to do any computation in the server. And this is another one, kind of similar, but this is using the smart backend, so you tell, without being specific to the smart backend, that you want the aggregation of the sum of the amount, and you also want the top categories for the data. This is not available yet as a public API. It will be in next CARTO locations event in New York in May. But if you want to start using it, talk to us, because we already have a stable alpha release that you can start using today. So, by the way, this is 900,000 points at 60 frames per second. I didn't put a fixed number there. It's actually happening like that. All that wouldn't be possible. Again, I am taking credit from a lot of people. A lot of people in the company are working on other stuff. It's not fair just to mention some of them, but I have to. So this is the CARTO VL team that have been working on this for the last months. So please, can you clap them for the work? Thank you, and I'm going to say it again. If you need something or you have any questions, this was about new data or big data, new analysis, a new audience, which means for me the vector technology.